I've always been a real aficionado of crime fiction and crime books. I'm a huge fan of crime films, certainly. Film noir is one of my favorite genres. The crime films that take place in LA are particularly vibrant for me. I find LA to be a very interesting landscape for crime films. The Big Sleep, Double Indemnity, Kiss Me Deadly into the 50s. After the early 50s, Chinatown is certainly a great LA crime film. To Live and Die in LA, I love very much. I'm not a big fan of people referring to post-40s, early 50s crime films as film noir, as it's a kind of very specific genre for me. But I won't go into all of that. But for me, the all-time greatest LA crime film is Point Blank, John Borman's film from 1967. It's based on the first Parker novel, The Hunter, from 1962 by Richard Stark, a pseudonym of Donald Westlake. Apparently, Donald Westlake would not let the name Parker be used unless they agreed to a series, and the studio was not up for that, so they changed the name to Walker. Point Blank was basically generated by Lee Marvin. I'm a big fan of Lee Marvin. I'm a member of the secret organization, the Sons of Lee Marvin. I can't talk about that. He was a big star at the time. He was given approval over the script and the casting. Once John Borman was on board to direct the film, Lee gave over those rights. He trusted John Borman very much. They hadn't worked together before. This is only the second film John Borman made. Before this, he made Catch Us If You Can, sort of a pseudo-Richard Lester Hard Day's Night film, but with Dave Clark 5. But Point Blank is just a remarkable jewel of a film for me.
Cell. Prison cell. How did I get here?
So where do I start?
What you want, son? What you want?
I think I would start with a remarkable sequence in the history of cinema, the opening of the film.
I want to talk to you, Walker. It's important. Come on, Walker. Come on.
What?
Now you listen to me, Walker.
Hey.
I need your help. Don't you understand? I need your help.
What are you doing?
Walker, they use the prison.
The editing of this film is incredible. This is a very fractured narrative. It's a kind of experimental structure in many ways. It cuts back and forth. It throws in flashbacks at unexpected moments.
You're my friend, Walker.
My friend.
I can't make it on my own.
Help my friend.
Trust me.
There's a linear thread to it, but it proceeds in not necessarily a linear way. The narrative kind of unfolds in the opening with flashbacks. You see the death of Lee Marvin's character in Alcatraz. This was the first film ever shot in Alcatraz after it was closed in the early 60s as a prison. So just going backwards, when he writes under the name Richard Stark, Donald Westlake, his books are very stark. The writing is very cold and dark. The character of Parker in these books, here called Walker, is extremely focused. He is almost like a samurai. He's very determined, and he doesn't let anything get in his way. And his friend kills him and takes his wife.
Take me away.
She goes off with his nemesis. That's how the story begins. The way it's edited is something far more complex and beautiful that I can't really describe.
Did it happen?
It sort of sets you up to be prepared for a pretty wild ride in terms of the structure of the film. There's an opening sequence. Within the opening sequence, of Walker's footsteps that's quite famous, of just his feet and the sounds of his footsteps walking down a very cold, hard hallway. His name is Walker, get it? There is a very fascinating scene in which Lee Marvin confronts his wife. He's carrying a .44 Magnum.
Walker Reese isn't here. He's gone. 3 months ago. Gone. Cold.
But he does not speak. And apparently in the script there was an exchange of dialogue that Lee Marvin chose not to speak. So it's a very kind of sinister scene.
You ought to kill me.
He says nothing, and it's very striking, the absence of dialogue.